All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. We're excited to have session 4 of our Countdown to College Education Professionals Week. Hopefully, you've been able to join us for some other programs this week. If not, we're happy to see you. And we have one more program tomorrow that we will mention at the end of the program. Today's program is called North Carolina Countdown to College, some basics, professional resources, best practices for a successful month. We are going to talk activities. We're going to do all kinds of stuff, and we have some fabulous presenters for you today. Before we begin, I just want to go over a few housekeeping items. So one, if you don't mind, please remain muted. We have a good number of folks joining today, and remaining muted will help. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to send them over in the chat. We have folks assisting today with the chat. After the program is over, I will send an email out to all of you who have registered with a copy of the PowerPoint, a link to the assessment, as well as a few other links that we may discuss today that we find helpful. This program today is being recorded. We will email everyone a copy of the recording in the next week or two. We have a pretty interactive program today, so we're excited to get going. I'm April Cleary. I'm with College Foundation North Carolina. I am the Assistant Vice President of College Access and Community Outreach. We have a couple other wonderful folks joining us today. We have Devin McCarthy-James. She's with the College Foundation. She is one of our regional representatives over in the mountains, and she will surely introduce herself as she begins her slides. And then we also have Sarah Peterson, who is a school counselor at Irwin High School. We are excited to hear about all the wonderful things that Irwin High School has done for Countdown to College and the College Application Week and all of those wonderful things. And I'm sure she will introduce herself as she begins her section in a few minutes. All right, so we have a pretty solid agenda this afternoon. We're really excited about this program. We're going to talk a little bit about some C2C basics. That'll be me kind of kicking us off. And then Devin's going to take over and talk to everyone about planning a successful event. And then it will become Sarah's show as she talks a little bit about implementing programs like she has done successfully at Irwin High School. We're going to have a collaborative discussion. We are going to have breakout rooms. We are going to use the whiteboard. And we're going to talk a little bit about weekly themes and activity suggestions. So we are really excited to have you all. And as I said, if you have any questions at all, please feel free to send them over in the chat. So I am going to kick off today with a poll question. So I have a question for all of you. The question is this going to be your first time hosting a Countdown to College or College Application Week event? So those answers are yes and no, which for us, I'm just going to assume that means not yet, because this one might be your first one. So we'll just give everyone another second or so to respond, and then we will end the poll. Like I said, we're excited to have you here today. As you have questions, feel free to send them over in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll and share the results with everyone. So we are 50-50. Wow, that is really exciting. We're really excited about that, to have a nice 50-50 answer, because we are going to have a nice mixture of a conversation today about some things that you can do that are new, some new ideas, giving you basic information, and those breakout rooms are going to give you an excellent opportunity to talk to peers across the state about different activities that they have done during the month of October. So let me begin by just offering you all a few basic bits of information about College Application Week and Countdown to College. So first, let's talk about kind of what it is. So College Application Week began in North Carolina in 2005. It was a pilot year, and we had just a small amount of high schools taking part. We were the first state in the country to offer anything like this. Since then, every state has joined, and we are really excited that we were the first here in North Carolina. We started out just with College Application Week, which is an opportunity for students to get assistance during school hours in the classroom with assistance with that application. Of course, we have since grown to College Countdown to College, which is a month-long program where we focus on the three main pieces of college admissions. We have RDS, we have FAFSA, and then we have those college applications. So we have a lot. Our second year in 2006, that was the year I joined, and we had 15 Gear Up schools that year take part in College Application Week, and we have just grown since then. This year, college application week will be held the week of October 17th. Typically, we have ended the week at 5 p.m. on Friday, mostly because that's what we have support for. If folks have any technical type issues, we are extending it to 11:59 this year, as we understand that high school students don't necessarily cut off their Friday at 5 p.m. That said, they will notice that there will be limited assistance if they have any sort of issues Friday night. So they might want to go ahead and begin earlier, but it does go through 11:59 p.m. It says applications will waive their fees. On October 1st, we will release the name of colleges that are waiving their fees this year. We have, in years past, had to make a few adjustments as colleges have realized if they could waive fees or not, and so that list has changed several times. And so our goal this year is to have one list, hopefully with no changes, that we put out on October 1st. It is up to the colleges if they can waive their fees or not, but we are excited. You will see that list at cfnc.org/CCC. Keep in mind that no colleges charge application fees ever, but we really hope that a lot of our students are still working on those community college applications during college application week. Okay, so before I pass this over to Devin, I just wanted to mention one more thing, and then I'm going to throw out one more poll question before I pass it over to Devin. What I want to make sure I mention is the need to please register your school for Countdown to College and College Application Week as a site registration, and I will send that link over in the chat for everyone as Devin begins. We really want you to register as a site. You don't have to, of course, it's not required, but we want you to register for a couple reasons. One is we have those fabulous I applied stickers this year that students absolutely love, that look like the I voted stickers, and so we have some of those. We also have reusable posters that can be wiped off. We plan on sending out bits of information throughout October to those who have registered, such as technology guidelines. Blank School has decided they are able to waive fees, so our list of colleges waiving fees has changed. Technology guidance, stuff like that. So we hope you're able to register. We also use that data. So it's important for us just to keep track and make sure that we're improving every year. So we encourage you to register. Like I said, I will put a link in the chat in a few minutes to make sure you have it to register. And I'm going to launch a poll question, one more poll question for me. And this is, have you registered already or not yet? Again, it's not a no, it's a not yet. Just to let us know if you've registered or not. It's really simple. It takes just a couple minutes. You just fill out a normal form online like we would for a webinar or anything else. But we really appreciate you being able to do that. Your regional reps are the folks who have the I applied stickers and the posters, and as they're able to swing by and drop them off to you, or if that isn't possible, they may end up needing to mail it to you. But what I want to do is show everyone the results. So about two-thirds of you have registered already. Thank you so much. A third of you will register momentarily, right? You're going to register today. All right, so I'm going to pass this over to Devin, who is going to provide you with a lot more information about planning a successful event. Thank you all so much, and feel free to send your questions over in the chat.
Awesome. Thank you, April. I'm really excited to be here. My name is Devin McCarthy-James. I am the 828 West Regional Representative for CFNC. And a little bit about me, my background is in high school. I worked as a high school teacher, and then I was a high school counselor. So I get really excited about this stuff. I get really excited about planning for programming and events, and really hearing all these amazing things on the road that schools are doing. So when I was thinking about this program and I started brainstorming, for my own uses, I sort of organized things into categories for myself. So this, I've got a little acronym there. This is me just kind of geeking out on this, but this was sort of the four main elements that I see out and about when I am looking at really awesome Countdown to College programs, or just really college access programs and things like that throughout the year. So I wanted to kind of go over some things that hopefully can help you as you think about what you're doing, either this year or maybe in the future. One thing I really want to emphasize at the top is that we can't do it all, right? And even if we could, it probably wouldn't end up great, right? Because we're going to use all of our energy to do all the things, and then we're going to be exhausted when it gets here, right? So, pick and choose wisely those things that make sense for you, for your program, for this year. We all know that every year is a little bit different in terms of what resources and structures and support is available. So just make sure to take care of yourself and make wise choices on the things that you want to include in your programs. So first, when we think about data, this is sort of why we do what we do, right? Why we have this big October countdown to college push. About 50%, it was 49% according to the Carolina Demography Group. Almost 50% of North Carolina students are potential first-generation college students, right? So when we think about that, half of our students do not have someone at home who can necessarily help them and walk them and guide them through this process without, kind of trying to do research themselves, right? That it's more difficult for them to, access that knowledge, right? So having events during the school day, having supports at school for this process is really, really helpful for those students. We also know that a lot of students leave money on the table every year, right? Especially that free money. We love when students are able to get gift aid to attend school and sort of reach that future that they dream of without hopefully going into mountains of debt. So we want to make sure we support students in completing the FAFSA or the RDS, whatever they need to do in order to access those funds. And then finally, we know that finishing that RDS and getting that in-state residency qualification can reduce those costs. So again, reducing costs for going to in-state schools is a big thing as well. So the first step in terms of what I see a lot of y'all doing and what I used to do in my program is sort of thinking about the data, right? And when I say data, I do not say that to say that you have to have this huge spreadsheet. You can, of course, that's great. Some people really love that data mining, sort of figuring out the percentages and things like that. But even just using the data that you've got and reflecting on your past events and how they went and things like that, that goes a long way, right? That experiential data also plays an important role. And when you're thinking about that before your event, I just really encourage you to think about, were there parts of the process that maybe needed more attention in previous years? Or are there parts of the process that you just know historically students struggle more with, right? So where can we give a little bit more attention in what we're planning in order to support those areas that we know students traditionally struggle with? Also, who could use additional support or focus? Are there people that are currently not getting involved? Are there groups of students or families that are not included in our programming or for whatever reason are just not connecting with what we're doing and the efforts towards including them in college access? And then finally, what are those goals of your event, right? Is it a broad goal? Are you going to actually use this as one of your professional development goals? I remember putting those in Power Schools. So you really think about, is this a broad goal for just, college access? Or do you want to actually, if you have access to the data, do you want to make it a specific SMART goal for data purposes and just kind of wrap it all up in that? Sometimes taking something you're already doing and adding it in there can be easier than reinventing the wheel, right? Then during, you want to see if you can provide that responsive support through tracking, right? So if there's a way to establish like an attendance procedure or just somehow track who's coming in and out of your events and, just so you know who's getting the support and more importantly, who is not, right? Who hasn't attended an event, who still needs more outreach, those sorts of things. And you can do some of that, obviously, on Cfnc Pro Tools because you can track some of the things that they're doing, right? You can look at that FAFSA data. You can look at the RDS data. You can see applications completed on Cfnc or attempted or started on Cfnc. So certainly use that, but also just, attendance at events. See if there's a way to track that information that makes sense. The other thing that I forgot to mention was, if you have data from maybe a graduation survey from last year, that might be helpful, just to look at, obviously that's a different cohort, it's a different group of students, so it's not everything, but certainly it can give you an indicator of historically, where students are going, what they're choosing after high school. And then if you participated in our next step on Cfnc, that's a limited program, so certain schools signed up, but if you were in one of those schools that use that next step program with juniors, that data could potentially be very helpful in noting what students' future plans are, right? Because that's one of the pieces of that program. So there's just some ways that you can kind of mine for data that you've already got, hopefully. And then you could also, do a beginning of the year survey with your seniors and just, really easy Google form, what's your next steps? What are you thinking about? Do you know where you might be going or doing next year? Do you have any parts of the process that you're concerned about? That sort of thing. And then, hopefully the goal of all this data and tracking is to ultimately be doing targeted and informed follow-up, right? So, your participants in the process, what are the next steps? You kind of know what they may have worked on, that sort of thing, and know what they need to know next. And you can share information or set up meetings. And then other students, you may need to do that future planning check-in, right? That intervention. Some students, I've had students who are, really high flyers, right? Like they were clearly on sort of a college, interested in college trajectory, but for whatever reason, they got stuck, right? And so that's where some of our counseling skills come in, right? We need to help these students. And I think with COVID, I think more than ever, there's been some students that are just very anxious about the process, right? So sort of intervening on those students where they need additional support can be very helpful. All right, and then we move to information, right? There's a lot of information out there to use for marketing, and I like to say marketing and inspiration, right? I think it's marketing with information about, the events that are offered, the resources that are out there is wonderful, but I also recommend trying to include some inspiration in there as well, right? The why of what we do. There's a lot of great information on Cfnc, of course. There is a Cfnc partner toolkit. Your Cfnc regional rep may have sent this out to you, so it may already be in your email. If it is not yet in your email, you can find it on that Countdown to College page. And that has a lot of really cool resources. It has a social media kit, so you can share those. You do not have to recreate things. As much as I love to play on Canva, I do not have that time all the time. So it's helpful to have a bank of resources. So we have a lot on there. And then we have other things like guaranteed transfer admissions programs, right? We have a list of that in there. So we have just a lot of things that can be potentially useful to students, to you and your work in this process. And then ways to market, right? A lot of you are doing those senior classroom visits. Mention some events that are coming up or mention some resources during those. If you are not doing classroom visits, maybe you do class meeting. That's another really good opportunity to get the word out. And then of course, school websites. If you have a really active school website, enlist whoever works on that website. Some counseling, departments have a go-to person that updates the website or has a Google Classroom. I know that's really popular as well. Get the word out, figure out the social media thing. Now, social media is tricky, right? Because you kind of already have to have a little bit of a following for this to be somewhat successful. So try and be good at figuring out who your good partners are, right, in the building. We'll talk a little bit more about this in a second, but so maybe the Student Government Association has a big following. Well, can you enlist that student that runs that account, right? Can you enlist other people in your building that might have those social media skills and be willing to flex those for you, right? To help you with this event. And of course, emails, all calls out to families from the principal. I've seen all calls from a superintendent. I've seen letters home, emails from the superintendent. Try to figure out where you can get some of those people. It's always good to have a lot of voices, right? They say in marketing, you have to hear something like 7 times times before you buy it, right? We want to kind of get this information in people's faces, because they're not always ready the first time to put that on their calendar, right? But they might be the second, third, fourth time. So definitely, as many people as you can enlist for that, the better. Reach out to those student clubs, classes, organizations. Think about who you can, kind of use to help disseminate that information, and also for setup, right? Those student clubs can come in really handy for some of the manual labor of setting things up, physical things that you have to do, or, announcements, right? So we often had students read special announcements over the loudspeaker, things like that. If you have text reminders, that's great. That's a good way to market. But even if you don't, you can share the Cfnc text reminders. So we won't necessarily share information specific to your school event, but we're going to share lots of resources and information reminding them in general of those college access materials, resources, deadlines, things like that. So, work smarter, not harder is always one good motto. So let us handle some of that heavy lifting for you. And then, I think oftentimes when folks plan these kinds of events, they forget that the wider community, there's folks sort of in the wings that really do want to help your school with what it needs. So if you know about a community organization that might want to help with some of this, whichever parts, right? You can reach out to them. Local media, maybe you have a local newspaper or a local news station or somebody like that you can just reach out to and say, hey, this is coming up. Maybe they'll use it, maybe they won't, but it doesn't hurt to try, especially if you already have the materials, you already have a flyer, and I'm just going to send this their way, just a heads up in case you might like to share, right? So definitely enlist as many helpful hands as possible. So here's just a list of some things that I usually would provide when we were doing college application week events at the school I used to work at, and I've seen other school counselors provide, or college access counselors, those sorts of folks. So these are some things that you can consider. And I thought this was a decent starter list for things you might need, or that students might need when they're doing applications or working on FAFSA, RDS, those sorts of things during the whole month, but especially college application week, when many folks really have those bang up events. There's certainly some of these that can be very easily printed. The college application week list is going to be able to be printed once it's up. I do want to mention though, if you don't really want to have that paper, or you're just not sure you want to print that in case it gets changed, the college search tool on Cfnc has a really awesome update. I'm super excited about it. So when you go to the college search, there's now at the bottom of all the other filters, there is a free applications filter. So you can use that right now. If you're on your computer, you can check it out. And you can use that right now to see all the colleges that have free applications year round. And then for that week, college application week, we will update that with all the colleges that are waiving that specific week. So that's going to be a really easy way for students to see exactly who's got free applications that week. And they can literally, from the college search tool, if they have an account already, they can click apply right from that screen. So that kind of streamlines some things. So by all means, print some things, but I did want to make sure to mention that because that's a really neat tool that might save you some printing and some time trying to figure out who's doing what that week. And then, of course, we have college application checklists. The admissions deadlines document is really helpful because it's got all North Carolina colleges on there. So that's super helpful. Students can look through, see the deadlines, kind of note them for themselves. FAFSA and RDS info, of course, is always helpful. SAT, ACT, all the parts of this process. And then, of course, we love that so many colleges waive college application fees that week for all students, but we know that there are some colleges that don't, but still accept those ACT, SAT, the NACAC waivers. So, having information about those on hand and just making sure students have access to those free applications if they need them is always helpful. So this is just a brainstorm of some of those supports that you might find helpful in this process. So we have community partners, of course, Cfnc regional reps. reach out to us. We'd love to come out to schools for this process. I'm going out to a few schools that week. I'm always excited. It's a celebration. It's, we're helping and supporting students, but we're also really celebrating them at this point. So I love it. It's one of my favorite things to do. So reach out to us, but there's other community partners that might be helpful. Think about connections with the Chamber of Commerce, or if you have a regional council. I know that in our neck of the woods in the mountains, we've got the Land of Sky Regional Council, and they have a FAFSA as part of their initiative. So they're actually working on providing materials for schools. We don't have them yet, but I'm really excited about that partnership. And so sometimes this is kind of the big picture too, is sometimes these folks might not be able to participate this year, but maybe it starts the ideas percolating for following years, right? So it's a marathon, not a sprint. So think about who you might partner with. I know that I've heard some areas, the Chamber of Commerce actually sent a letter to local businesses, interestingly enough, to target the parents that worked at those businesses, saying how important the FAFSA was. So there's all sorts of opportunities out there, and I've heard of some really cool things across the state these last few years that folks do to connect and partner with outside organizations. Many hands make light work. So 2- and 4-year colleges, obviously, I hope that you have already or are really considering reaching out to representatives at your local colleges. They love to come out and help and work with students. And then, of course, nonprofit community organizations and partners. Also consider those school partners. Is there an administrator that you can loop into this? Because I especially like when I see school administrators doing like a silly video or something, right? That draws in a lot of attention from our students. They love that. So if you can have them do a little FAFSA jingle, or get your college applications in, whatever you can do to drum up some of that interest. Are there teachers? Are there things you can do with teachers? Some places have like door decorating contests, and everybody gets to celebrate the colleges that they're in. We have that I applied sheet on Cfnc. You can have everybody fill out I went to college at this place. That's what it was, not the I applied, sorry. I went to college at, and have everybody fill it out and just start those conversations throughout the building. I really think that if you haven't and you're planning to host an event, you should definitely connect with your media center and technology peeps, because we're going to be, if you're on Cfnc and you're having students complete applications and things like that, we want to make sure everything's working smoothly before we get students on there, right? We know that lots of students have plenty of barriers to applying for college successfully, for applying for FAFSA successfully, all those things. So we do not want to add a technology barrier in the middle of an application or something like that. So if you can get that squared away ahead of time, we have the technology guidelines on Cfnc, on the Countdown to College page. So definitely just send them a copy of that and say, does this look good? Is there anything we need to do ahead of time? Because we want it to go smoothly for students and for you. And then parents, PTA folks, sometimes PTAs are really good about providing snacks and, making things like festive and really supporting our efforts. So definitely, reach out to those folks as well. And of course, we talked about student partners, but one really underestimated student partner that I like to talk about is former students. One really nice thing about the college application week is that it falls kind of in sync with a lot of fall breaks. So if you have students who've gone away and are maybe home for a couple of days during that time, or if you have students that are attending colleges locally, it can be a really good opportunity to bring those students back, to talk about, how that's been for them so far, to help with this process, to just cheer on the students and, kind of be part of that. I've seen some schools do panels, like former graduate, student panels, to talk about, their experiences at college. You could do something like that, a little more formal, or you could just informally have them join for support, whatever kind of gets everybody going and helps support your program and your plans. And then of course, families. So, I kind of mentioned the PTA, but we know that there's a lot of families that they may not have the ability to be involved at the times that we offer certain events. So are there evening events and possibly daytime events depending on parents' shifts? I know a lot of schools schedule things like FAFSA nights or financial aid nights, kickoff to college nights, things like that to kind of bring those families in. But what are we doing when we bring them in? Are we setting the stage for them, like things like childcare? If you have students from like an early childhood ed program. Maybe they can babysit some kiddos in a room right next door, or just like in the back of the auditorium even, you never know. Or, is there a way to provide some snacks or some food and make it more of a, an event? Everybody loves food. That's my philosophy. And then, of course, support and connections are super important when you're talking about those building relationships with the students. So, one of the things that I think is really great about these events is, sort of the connection with those students that maybe you haven't seen in a while, right? Oh, wow, hey, it's great to see you. Come on in. Let's talk about applications. What are you working on? And then that opens the door, right, for future conversations. There's a logistical supporting students with Pro Tools. Make sure that you have your Pro Tools, you apply for your Pro Tools login if you haven't yet, because it's going to be helpful during college application week to troubleshoot account logins, things like that, because you can see some of that information behind the scene and help reset passwords. But that relationship thing is the thing that really gets me going. I think that's one of the most important parts about this event. And so, providing those next steps in the event can be helpful, right? Because you're not necessarily sure when you're going to see that student again. So having something that indicates, what do I do next? After this week, what do I do next can be helpful, whether that's pointing them to maybe the Cfnc session on what's next in the 4th week of October, or providing materials, providing some way for students to connect with you. How do they sign up for appointments with you? Are there other things that are coming up? And also consider connecting them with outside resources. I know we're really passionate people about, helping our students, but again, it really does take a village. And so consider, are there outside mentoring groups or support groups you can connect them with? Some of your schools definitely have folks within the building, right? Like college advisors, and out here we have Project Discovery, and there's all sorts of Gear Up folks and whatnot that can help support in the building, but there may also be supports outside the building. So one in particular that I has been growing in North Carolina, hopefully you've heard of it before through Latinx Ed, is College y Consejos. And that's a really great program for our Latinx students. They have one-on-one mentoring sessions that students can sign up for, and it can be in English or Spanish. So that's also very helpful especially to involve families, things like that. There's other groups. I know there's there's a LAWA group in the Charlotte area that helps with college access and helping students understand their educational opportunities. Around here, we have a group called My Daddy Taught Me That. That's an awesome group for young men, adolescent males. It's, again, a mentoring group, but part of that mentoring is thinking about their future and helping support them in that process. So think about what you might have locally. Obviously, my frame of reference is Western North Carolina, but I would be surprised if there aren't groups like this throughout the state. So definitely find out and reach out to those folks and see if they can't help you with that process. Also, college contacts, are there, again, former students that you might connect current students with, or, in the admissions folks, the financial aid people, whatever you think the students need support with, there's likely some people at the college level that are happy to help with that transition, sort of from the other side, right? We're trying to push these students off and they're trying to pull them in. And so let's try and meet in the middle and try and connect to them and connect our students with them as well. And then, of course, social media accounts. If students are going to be on social media anyway, let's make that work for us. So maybe providing them some helpful hints of accounts to follow, right? So follow your Cfnc regional rep. Definitely follow us. But in addition, are there college admissions groups, financial aid groups at different colleges? The federal student aid site always has helpful tips. College access groups. There's a lot of really great college advisors that are putting out information. You do not have to belong to that school to follow a college advisor, right? So, if you don't have one, there's no reason that they can't follow other college advisors that are doing good things on social media. And then just following the hashtags, right? Hashtag scholarships, hashtag financial aid, hashtag FAFSA, hashtag applying to college. All those things can put things in front of them. And again, surround them with that exposure that a lot of our students need for information and access. And then finally, celebration. I think this one it's so important because the students can get all the support and information that they could possibly want. But if they're not excited about it, if they're not engaged with the idea of this event, it just becomes harder, right? Not only that, but we know, especially now more than ever, students have had kind of a difficult, our seniors this year have had a difficult high school career, right? And so the more ways we can make this process, more uplifting and less anxious, less anxiety inducing, right? The better. So really celebrating them, celebrating the seniors on their way to graduation in their future. And I've sort of phrased this intentionally, involve all these kids in, creating a future focused and college access culture. So this is a point where I do want to mention, earlier I talked about, are you looking at ways of including groups that are not traditionally included? And so I know we're talking a lot about college access, it's countdown to college, but I just want to remind you that college access does not mean that we're trying to get everybody to go to college, right? I think it's important to also celebrate students that are looking at the other E's, right? So when we talk about the 3 E's, it's enrollment. This is what college, access is all about. We want to support them on that path. But if there are other students that are looking to enlist, if there are other students that are looking towards employment, we want to celebrate students planning for those next steps, right? We want everybody to feel included, because those students may not be choosing to go to college right after high school, but they might go to college further down the line, or they want to know that we want all students to have all options, but we want to also celebrate where they're planning to go, what they're planning to do in those next steps. So that's also something to think about, is are we celebrating all of our seniors and focusing on making sure we're providing access to college for those that really are going to benefit from that path. And there's just a lot of ways you can make this event celebratory. I really recommend again, making it fun. I like the photo spot idea. I actually linked, when we get these slides, there'll be a link on that picture. I found like a $25 Instagram, sort of printable thing that you can order. So there's some cool things you can do for not a whole lot of money. I've actually heard about students doing Instagram takeovers, right? So if students did a certain amount of tasks towards college during the event, then they could do like an Instagram takeover of the school Instagram. I mean, monitored, of course, but that's kind of cool, because that can also serve a marketing purpose, right? Especially if you have a student come in on Monday and then they get to do an Instagram takeover and then they share it to their friends. It can kind of build some momentum and some community involvement that way, because the kids are excited to be doing that themselves. So they're going to come in and try to do that themselves. Also, you might track student participation somehow. Maybe it is like having students do one of those bulletin boards where you talk about what their goals are for the year or for next year. It could be like one of those thermometer things where you fill out how many students have come in, right, to apply to college. There's so many ways to kind of go about this stuff. And then finally, just some other considerations when you're thinking about this, like in terms of logistics, is there a location that's sort of more friendly for something like this than others in your school? Are there ways to maybe utilize more than one location, depending? Like maybe you have a main location for students filling out applications and whatnot, and then maybe you do something in the lunchroom, like for like the fun part. I don't know. You can do all sorts of things with this stuff. Also consider student passes. How are students going to come to you, and what's the system for that? Because we know that teachers want to make sure they are where they're supposed to be, and so think about the logistics of that as well. We already talked about daytime or evening events, but also think about are there places where you can provide different kinds of formats for different kinds of needs? Sometimes it's just group application work sessions, everybody comes in and there's a bunch of people. Sometimes it's a presentation for information heavy topics. Maybe it's individual appointments. I'm thinking about things like FAFSA, where maybe parents can be involved in that process. And then goal setting. Again, I talked about like on their way out, what's next? Well, maybe you could have students do a little goal setting activity on their way out. this is what I know I need to do next, and this is how I'm going to accomplish it. So again, I've talked about a lot of stuff, but remember that you don't have to do all of this. I'm just kind of talking about some things that I've seen out and about and that I've been thinking about. So hopefully this was somewhat helpful to kind of review sort of the big picture of things to think about. And now I'm going to pass it on to who I consider the star of this show, Sarah Peterson. She is a wonderful counselor, school counselor at Irwin High School in my region. So take it away, Sarah.
Okay, so my name is Sarah Peterson. This is my 6th year at Irwin High School. Irwin's located in Asheville in the mountains. I've been a school counselor since 2004, so I'm getting old now. I've worked at all levels. I worked at elementary for a long time. I've worked at middle school, and I've worked in high school. High school to me is the most challenging, but I do really love it. Before I came to Irwin, I worked for a year at Project Discovery. It's a talent search program. It's federally funded. And our school is very lucky. We're the only school in Buncombe County to be under their grant, and we're served by them. And I worked for them for a year. And then one of the schools I served was Irwin. I kind of fell in love with the students at Irwin, and then I wanted to work here. It is a challenging school though. But college access, I think a lot of the reason is because I worked at Project Discovery before I came here, but it's really my passion. I really love helping students go to college. I know that not every student needs to go to college or wants to go to college, but I love helping the ones who do want to do that. Our school is the most diverse in Buncombe County. And in fact, doing this presentation, I didn't even really realize, and see it on paper, but we have 33% Hispanic Latinx students. Our school is 51% white, but we have a lot of students who are served in our ESL program, not just through Spanish speakers. We also have a number of Russian and Ukrainian students. We have a number of islanders at our school, and our school is sitting at 54.88% free and reduced lunch. We know that number is really kind of skewed because we've been offering free lunch to the whole entire school for a couple of years. So we're typically at 68%. But what we did notice that 95% of those who applied for free or reduced lunch actually qualified. That's just whoever applied. So we do have a lot of poverty within our school, and it's just a challenging place to work sometimes. We have a lot of seniors who are first gen. I don't know the exact number. I know that's who I served through Project Discovery, was mostly first generation students applying to college, but we serve a lot. And in fact, I have a student who graduated last year, and he still is DMing me on our school Instagram, asking me, well, why does my loan say this? And what do I do about that? They have a lot of questions, especially if their parents didn't go to college. So for our college application week, we make a really big deal about it. We try to make it really fun. We have spirit days. We wear our college gear all week. Now this year it's going to be a little different because it's the same week as homecoming, and our SGA does their own spirit week. So I did ask SGA, could you please make Wednesday, which is our college application day, a college day on your spirit week? So we're combining with them this year. But hopefully that'll make it even more spirited, because we really like to get our SGA involved. You can see in this picture, they did our photo booth last year for our college application day, and they're going to do it again. And they already sent me their idea, and it's really cool. It's something I never would have thought of. And that's one thing I like about having the students be involved, is they think of things that I would never think of. One of my colleagues and we came up with the idea to have college flavored cupcakes. We still have not implemented this idea. We have not convinced the foods teacher to make them for us, but we think it's a really cool idea. So that's something we would like to do sometime. And really a lot of Devon's ideas that she just went over, so many of those I never would have thought of. So we're always evolving here at Irwin. Last year we did have, and this middle one's a video. I don't know how to, or I guess Devin, I don't know if you can make it play, but we did have like a college cornhole. One of my colleagues, Libby, she had that cornhole, and I was like, let's bring it in since it's college. So we let them play cornhole, kind of in a different way, obviously, but and then we would give them prizes when they played cornhole. And then you can see Devin comes to our college application day. She's here in this picture. We really appreciate having her as our rep. We're very lucky to have her, and she just adds a lot of enthusiasm to what we're doing. Okay, and so our prizes, we get mostly prizes from our colleges who we ask them for prizes, the ones that are far away and maybe don't come help us with college application day. We do get a lot of assistance from local colleges who just show up on that day and help us out, and they bring prizes. AB Tech, that's our community college in Buncombe County, and they are amazing. They give us like these cute little teddy bears and little teddy bear keychains, and my own kids fight over those. But we have a ton of stuff. I've also asked for donations from local restaurants. Chick-fil-A will usually give us like at least like 50 free sandwiches or something like that. And we use the leftover prizes from college application day for FAFSA day. That way we have prizes for both, and we just make both events really fun. So we did start having an actual like activity in addition to the games and just sitting there and applying for college and doing your RDS and all that stuff. We did last year also have an activity where the students could decorate. We had all these like white cotton masks that was like the standard mask that we gave students when they came in the building. And so we're like, we're going to use these masks for something. And so we use them, and we let the students just like draw something for their college, like their college logo, their college name, whatever, so that they had like a college mask that they could wear to school, because of course last year masks were required at the time that we had college application week. They're not required now, but it's funny looking back on these photos. I'm like, oh yeah, we were all masked. Okay, so one of the biggest things we do as part of our college application day is we have a photo booth. We have a lot of pennants. We kind of hoard them. Once we get them, we save them. We use them to decorate the photo booth, and then we have students hold them up. Usually it's for their college. We don't have one for every single college, but we try to collect as many as we can. We let the students hold them up when, you know, colleges they're applying to, thinking about whatever. And we post those pictures like crazy on our social media, and they're just really fun pictures, and the kids love to see themselves. And when I ask them, I mean, these kids know when they see me in the hall with my phone, they know that they're about to be on social media. And I think most of them like it. Occasionally they'll be like, I don't want to be on there, but most of them will say yes when I ask to take their picture on college application. They're pretty cute about it. I really enjoy it. It's one thing, because I do a lot of the social media, not only for my department, but within our school. It's like, I feel like I'm hosting an event and then on the other side taking pictures. Like I plan graduation, and so I'm always trying to take tons of pictures, but I'm also in charge of that event, which is a lot. But I think that, you know, we've been trying to build our social media base so that the students will be more invested, so that not only will they look at these fun things, they'll see the important things too. And, you know, they'll see some pictures like this, and then maybe we can draw them in to come to financial aid night or something like that. But we do have Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. If you ever want to take a look, it's at Irwin Counseling. So our entire school dresses up. It's not just the seniors, it's the teachers, 9th, 10th, and 11th grade. We all dress up in college gear for college application day. Previously, we've done it all week, but like I said, we're with homecoming this week, so I don't know what it'll exactly look like. One thing we do to make sure that everyone knows how important this is we call every single senior down to the library. We don't call them all by name, but we say like, last names, A as an anteater to whatever. Our librarian likes to make up silly names when she calls kids down, but we call them all to the library. We of course take kind of a break during third period. That's when we have lunch. And you know, it interrupts the school day all day long. And we've always done it that way. And nobody's really ever complained about it. We do have students that come down and say, I'm not going to college. And so they play a game, they get a prize, whatever, like they can participate in some way. They can let us know what their plans are, what they're doing, or they can just go back to class, like no big deal. But we do call them all down because we want them to know how important it is. And we take turns. I have the end of the alphabet, so I get a little bratty sometimes about my kids coming in at the end of the day. And so last year, my kids came at the beginning of the day. And so we kind of switch it up. We don't want anyone to get the shaft. So we do advertise heavily on social media to try to just build up some spirit, some momentum, some excitement for our kids. And then we also, because we're involving SGA now, that's been the best thing is getting them involved. They just have really cool ideas, and then they have their own social media. So they promote it on theirs, we promote it on ours, and it just helps a lot with just the excitement. So one of the things we do is we use a ton of volunteers. Because we have Project Discovery, we're able to get them to help us find volunteers, which is really nice. That takes some of the work off me and planning. They're really good about it, and they're connected with Western Carolina. And so they are able to get a lot of volunteers from Western to come help us. But we do ask a lot of the local colleges to send someone also for FAFSA Day. And so the Project Discovery counselors themselves come help us, and they help us find other volunteers. And when I worked for Project Discovery, I planned the whole thing. And so I figured out how to do it because I did that. We do bring our volunteers donuts in the morning. We serve them lunch. I'm glad Devin likes it. But I just feel like we have to take care of them. Like, we can't expect these people to come in our school, work all day. They don't get any break or any food. Like, that doesn't make any sense. We try to give them water. We've been getting them like Chick-fil-A. We just go pick up like the Chick-fil-A meals, and then one of the counselors would just go run and get it. And then we'll kind of take a break. Some of them end up helping kids the whole day with very little break, but we do try to give our volunteers a break. And we do take pictures of our volunteers, and then we tag them and their college or whatever organization they're from to show that they came and helped us. And we usually get like reposts on that. I think colleges really appreciate that. They appreciate that it's shown that they're volunteering in the community and that they're helping us out. So that's something we always try to do and say thank you. Okay, so FAFSA. We have worked really hard to increase our FAFSA rate. It's not the greatest. We're not like the best school in North Carolina by any means, but we work really hard to try to get as many of our students who are planning to go to college to finish their FAFSA. And we, like I said, we have so many first-generation college students. We have so many students who, you know, are speakers of other languages at home. So we get interpreters. We get interpreters for all our events for College Application Week, but we get interpreters for FAFSA Day especially. We have an interpreter that comes like 2 days a week. By the end of FAFSA Day last year, he was practically a school counselor. He's like, I can just do this. I know how to do a FAFSA. It was really funny. So we're trying to get him to come to our next one because I'm like, he already knows how to do FAFSAs. And we do have to offer more than one event because our kids, they just don't pay attention. They don't know what's going on. Plus, we do it by appointment. So we do only have a certain number of slots. We try to get like 4 or 5 volunteers who can, you know, be at a laptop, be at a table, helping families. And then we make the kids sign up for time slots because we don't want the volunteers to be so bogged down, not get a break, or for families to be waiting for a long time. I know last year we had a lot of trouble because the website kept going down and the kids were like, the families were like crammed in one little corner of the library. It's a little ridiculous, but we tried our best. And so what we did after that is we used Cfnc to find out who finished, who's done their FAFSA, who has an error. And the same thing with RDS, like we try to figure out who might have an error and talk to the students. And then when we did our second FAFSA Day, we could target those kids like, hey, you never filled out your FAFSA, what's going on? are you still planning to go to college? Or, hey, you have this weird error. I think your mom's social security number wasn't entered incorrectly, and we would try to fix it. And that way we were fixing these errors on days when we had professionals in our building who could help the students, and who, you know, might know a little more than us about how to fix these errors. And like with Devin, we like to have her come to our events too, because she knows so much about RDS, and our project discovery counselors know a lot too. They're great. So we do have students make appointments. We try to get them to create FSA ID ahead of time. I will say we have not implemented something strategically with our juniors yet in terms of everybody, let's get your FSA ID done. I know some of the schools in my county do that. They have like a junior day. We're not really there yet, but we do try to tell them, like, as we're meeting with seniors, you know, we say, hey, this is the day we're going to do college application day. Get your RDS done before that, especially if you're applying to community college. And then, you know, with FAFSA day, I'm like, please do your FSA ID, get your parent to do your FSA ID before FAFSA day. It just makes it go a lot faster. And that's it for me. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Sarah. And yes, I love going to their event. I love that they feed me. That's always great. But no, I love that how community oriented their event is. They really do a good job of connecting all their seniors and, you know, other students in the school to sort of this idea that this is exciting, this is fun, this is, you know, you have to do some tasks to get there, but it's an exciting time, and these are good things to be doing. They're good problems to have because they're kind of the steps to your future. So now it's time for you all to get a little active. I know you've been listening to us talk for a little while, so we're going to do a breakout discussion groups, and I just want you all to brainstorm. These questions on the screen are entirely suggestions. I just want to get you to start thinking about, you know, what do you do that's great, and what maybe needs work, and maybe hear from some other folks about what they do, and try to share those ideas. We very rarely get the opportunity to collaborate statewide with other school counselors. So I just think it's a really great opportunity to hear what other people are doing all across the state. So we are going to break you up into groups in just a second. These are the questions on the screen. Just share a little bit about your role, your school, and your plans, or things that you're working on, that sort of thing. And I'm also going to put these questions in the chat so you can still see them once you're in the discussion room. So April, when you're ready to click the button, I think we're ready, and we're going to send you all into rooms for about 15 minutes, and then we'll bring you back and we'll kind of share out a little bit. All right, welcome back, folks. I think we've still got some folks coming back, or did we lose some folks? I'm not sure.
I think both. I went ahead and closed the rooms down just a minute early because I got some great feedback from Miss Laura Hill, one of our attendees, and it's easy to accidentally flat out leave the meeting when you click on join breakout. So we did have some folks leave, and then we also, I think, had some folks maybe that didn't want to be part of a breakout. Maybe we do have some more folks joining slowly, so we could just check.
Totally fine. It sort of is what it is. We try to do new things. All right. So those of you that were able to successfully come back into our session, thank you. We did want to do something real quick, another, you know, sort of activity. And what we're going to do is we're going to just put up a whiteboard. So you don't have to talk, I promise. But we're just going to put up a whiteboard. And so if you want to, it's really, you can actually add some comments on here. So what I would ask is that anything that you think is really important that came out of that session, you can put on a sticky note. So you can see there's a sticky note little square there. And so like I put on a sticky note, and you can do, yeah, you can just type in whatever works for you. We're just trying to generate some ideas since this is basically one big brainstorming session. All right, we talked about some good stuff in the group that I popped into too. I'm going to add some stuff.
My group was awesome. I don't know if you guys can hear me, but my group was amazing. Haley and James doing some amazing things in Surrey County.
Yay! That's what we were hoping for. Thank you so much.
Well, I have to give Aisha a shout out as well. She's doing some great things for her students, very individualized approach, and I love that. Each of those students leaves her school with everything they need in a beautiful, well-kept binder, and they literally go to college and they're ready to rock and roll. So she's doing the thing down there, y'all.
That's super cool.
And I don't mind sharing it in front of the screen if you'd like. I was able to share it with my friends in my small group. I don't mind sharing it. I think we're better when we share.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that.
Yeah. And I put something in the chat before we broke out about how you guys, when you changed the date in 2019, how it kind of really caused a lot of issues, but we were able to work through it. But if you get time, it's a pretty long comment, but I would like for you to read it when you get a moment. I don't know, can you guys see me?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know what you can see because I can't see what you're seeing, but this is my bind. I'm trying to be private and cover people's names. I don't know. But I went on Donors Choose, and so I don't know if you guys use that, but we were able to use Donors Choose, and because I am the only counselor here, we're a charter school, and I just asked for these binders, and so someone shipped me 53-inch binders. And at the end of the school year, every year they're chock full, and they're separated by dividers, and I just created sections for everything. So they already have, I'm gonna see if I can cover it up. They already have like their ACT and SAT test tickets. FAFSA's done, everything is in here. I was trying to, here's something else I can share. It's like a table of contents.
Oh yeah.
And like the first divider is like their picture, their bio, any awards, recognitions, their community service, their transition plan, because every student is required to write a transition plan. And it just goes down. I have 6 sections. And so they take it with them to college, and I've been doing this several years. And they take it with them to college because most times some colleges will say, well, I don't have this, I don't have that, or you know how it goes. And they're able to retrieve it from their notebook. And
awesome.
It makes them feel comfortable. Yeah, I don't want them to leave and be afraid. Even if they're going across the street to Forsyth Tech, I'm right across the street from the Macy Woodruff Forsyth Tech campus. So even if they're going across the street, it gives them a boost. What they tell me, it makes them feel a little safe and a little more confident because they know the language. Yeah, and I was sharing with my group, these things are required. I put some requirements, I built some senior requirements into my program.
And so you do a lot of front end work, like a lot of front end preparation.
I do. If I flip this computer around, you'll see a bookshelf covered in white notebooks. They're all labeled like with their group, because I have to divide my kids into groups. I meet with one group each day of the week. So group 1, they see me every Monday. Group 2 see me every Tuesday, and so on. And then, the stars, they let me know who my Crosby Scholars, so I can do their advisement, because I'm a Crosby Scholar advisor as well. So the first day of school, they come in and they know what these things are. Over the summer, we do senior day. And so all the seniors get to come in, of course, except the new ones that will transfer in that I won't know until the first day of school. But they'll come in on senior day, and they're able to get this done. They're able to get RDS done and some other things while we have help. And it's been really cool. It's been really cool. Like I said, the changing of the dates in 2019 for college application, we threw a whole monkey wrench. It's our fall break and the kids are not here.
Oh, got it.
So
quite frankly, okay.
Quite frankly, a lot of them would not apply without the help.
Set them up for that week, and then fingers crossed.
So it's been tricky, but I was able to I still have the big college fan pep rally that people come from all over to be a part of, but they go in and we save the applications and we submit during college application week. So we work around it. We do. We work around it. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. That's great.
You're welcome. I hope it helped someone.
All right, so we've got some ideas on the board. We got this wonderful impromptu presentation from Aisha here. Thank you so much. And so April, did you want to try and wrap us up with some last minute things? We've got a couple things just to keep in mind, I believe. Let me, sorry guys, give me just a sec, share screen, and there it is.
Thank you, everybody, so much. And this is what happens when we try to be creative with using things. But that was my first time using Whiteboard, and so hey, we're all learning things. It was really neat. I think that we'll have to use that more often to share ideas. So Devin is our resident tech rep. She is very good with the technology, and she makes us learn things, which is good. Because I also learned how to use mail merge today, just so everyone knows. I'm just having a day, right? So it's helpful for all. So just a few reminders as we go through college application links we talked about earlier. We provided some information on October. We have different themes each week based on things students should be doing. One thing I'm excited to share is during the first week of October, as part of that first theme, thinking about career exploration before you dig into your application. It's the first time ever we will be holding a virtual career fair with a focus on trades and apprenticeships. So we are very excited for that. We have over 100 students registered so far, and I'm sure that will continue to grow. We have a panel who will talk to you all about different careers and apprenticeships. So we are really excited. I will make sure that I send a link to that in the follow-up email, as well as the different topics that we have for students each week. So let's move on and talk about a couple other things. We have really gone over a lot of this as far as the three main efforts, things that we want to do for the month of October. You guys have talked a lot about volunteers and getting prizes and incorporating parents as well. We have some different programs that we wanted to make sure that we kind of offered to you. We have a lot of this as a part of our site coordinator's handbook, which is now I'm calling a resource guide because I shortened it a lot this year. And I'm going to make sure that you all get a link to that in the email as well. So we've talked about some possibilities, week one, encouraging your students to attend that virtual career fair I just mentioned. Week two, possibly holding a financial aid workshop, FAFSA completion events, maybe a scholarship workshop, where you can invite in people maybe from the community to talk about local scholarships. Week three, we had some fabulous discussion from Irwin High School about how they handle things. You can pick one day, you can choose all 5 to participate in. We had a conversation in the chat about asking colleges, for example, for some different giveaways to offer. And week 4 being okay, I did some of this stuff. Now what happens? We have virtual presentations happening that month that I'll be doing. And maybe you could even consider having a lunch presentation one day where they talk about, you have a guest, your regional rep, or you talk about some different things that might happen after they do those applications. We talked about advertising. This is some information from another high school from last year that we had provide some information during Education Professionals Week about some things they're doing. We have folks do some really fun bulletin boards, making sure that you are offering snacks and music and trying to make it a fun thing, maybe some energy. We've also had folks do if the students come down to student services enough times or spend enough time working on applications, maybe there are some prizes, maybe there's an Amazon gift card that could be offered out as a incentive, maybe some college swag. So hopefully you guys got some good ideas today from that. I am going to skip through a few of these things because we are going to provide this presentation to you. I'm going to send it out shortly after we get done today. But on Cfnc, we do have a good number of curriculum pieces with ideas for activities, and that site coordinator's resource guide has a lot in there. Not that much, actually, not overwhelming, but it takes each week of the month and offers some very specific ideas of activities of what students can do, what you can do with students. All activities take 15 minutes or less. Activities can be done by any grade level at the high school, in case you want to incorporate some of this with your younger students. And we also have any resource that you might need included in that. It's not a guessing game. It's not, okay, that's a great idea, but how do I, get to some of this stuff? Nope, our goal for this year is to be very straightforward, provide you with easy activities and everything you might need for it. We encourage you to start reaching out to people now to get some assistance. It's going to sneak up on us, so make sure you're contacting folks in your community and your regional reps and all of that. So just a few things as we close up today. We have information about the folks who were with you and their email addresses, and it's in the PowerPoint that will be sent over. Tomorrow, we have our last program of the week that we're excited about. Tomorrow will be a college admissions panel. I know COVID is not over, but what does college admissions look like 2.5 years into all of this? How does this test optional rules work, and what are they looking for in students and all of that? We have admissions counselors from public and private institutions joining tomorrow. And so everyone will talk a little bit about what's going on there. You can find that at cfmc.org/events to register, or cfmc.org/C2C. We have, I will send out an email shortly with a copy of the PowerPoint, a bunch of the links that we mentioned. It's going to be link heavy. There's going to be a lot of links in there because we have talked about a lot. And I want to make sure you guys have most of the links that we had in the chat. Again, this meeting was recorded and a copy of it will be sent out to everyone who registered in about a week and a half. It will be on our YouTube page. We have a YouTube channel, Cfnc, and we will have a playlist specifically for all the programs this week in case you missed any. We appreciate you all being here. We hope that we see you tomorrow as we finish this week. And you will also have an assessment from today's program. We encourage you to please complete it. We take that information. We really look at it and read it to try and make sure that we are improving every year. Make sure you register your site for Cfnc for Countdown to College and College Application Week. Hopefully we see you tomorrow and through October. Brittany, Devin, was there anything that I'm looking at Devin, but I can see the name Brittany under you on my screen. Is there anything that you wanted to mention that we hadn't mentioned, or Brittany, who's also with Cfnc, if there's anything that you wanted to mention as we close today?
No, absolutely. You've pretty much covered it. Thanks everybody for joining us. I hope you got some good ideas. If not for this year, then years to come. Again, it's a marathon, not a sprint, right? So thank you so much for coming. Thanks for all your ideas that you shared as well. I really, really appreciate it. And I hope you all have a great rest of your week.